The third special session of the Midnight 38 na Legislature in Guam is called to order. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you are recognized.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the House rules, I move to adopt today's third special session agenda dated September 10, 2025.
A motion was made to adopt today's third special session agenda dated September 10, 2025. Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to waive special session agenda items 2 through 6.
A motion was made to waive special session agenda items 2 through 6. Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you are recognized. Or hang on.
Roll call.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, please take roll call.
Vice Speaker Ada. Senator Barnett. Speaker Blas. Senator Borja. Senator Calvo. Senator Duenas. Senator Gumatautau. Senator Lujan. Senator Munya Barnes. Senator Parkinson. Senator Perez. Senator Salas Matsunani. Senator San Agustin. Senator Taidagui. Senator Terlahi. Mr. Speaker, there is a quorum.
Sizos Masi, Madam Clerk. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you recognize now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to waive special session agenda items 8 through 9.
A motion was made to waive special session agenda items 8 and 9. Are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you still recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to advise the members of the messages from the Imaga Hagaguahan specific to the call to special session and move that the messages from the Imaga Hagaguahan be appended in today's special session journal.
On the motion that messages from Imaga Hagaguahan be appended to today's special session journal, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you still recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to waive special session agenda items 11 and 12.
Okay, on the motion to waive special agenda items 11 and 12, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objections, motion carries. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you are still recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move that bill number 3-S, it be deemed to have its given its first reading.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carried. We are in motion. Majority Leader Senator Lujan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I move to excuse senators not present for today's legislative session.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objections, motion carries. Vice Speaker Ada, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to place Bill 3-S on the session agenda, introduced by Committee on Rules by request of the Imaga Hagaguahan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam, an act to appropriate $40 million from the General Fund to the Department of Administration to fund Guam Memorial Hospital Authority operational costs and capital improvements.
On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. Vice Speaker Ada, you're still recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to go to the second reading file on the session agenda.
Okay. On the motion, are there any objections? Hearing and seeing no objection, motion carries. We're now at the second reading, and now we're going to need to move into the Committee of the Whole to be chaired by the Oversight Chair of Finance, Government Operations, Senator Duenas. So let's stand in recess and get everything set up, and then we'll come back in. And by that time, Senator Duenas, you'll have the chair. Okay? We are in recess.
The Committee of the Whole is now called to order. Senators, I will go over the rules of engagement for this special session. And after I complete that, I will recess to have the panel members come in and be sworn in. I know that Ed Byrne is on his way. We have OFB as well as GMH, so we can start with those folks. So I will now read the rules of engagement for this Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole, of course, has been called to order. Materials for the Committee of the Whole are in the shared session Google Drive folder labeled Committee of the Whole. Proposed amendments must be submitted in writing to the clerk via email to session@guamlegislature.gov. Rules of engagement. We will have, number one, we have 2 rounds of discussion on Bill 13S. We have 2 rounds of questions for the panel, which each senator allotted 10 minutes for questions, not including responses. Please be reminded that if you yield your time, only one person can yield their time to any of our colleagues here at once. And once it's yielded, all that time is given to the person that you have allowed to speak. You will not be allowed to break that up. It will be the whole 10 minutes. After the completion of the 2 rounds of questions, panelists will be excused. A reminder that amendments will not be entertained until after the panel is dismissed. The round for amendments not submitted in writing to the clerk and uploaded to the Google Drive folder prior to the start of the 3rd round will not be entertained. After we complete discussion of the bill, I will then close and I will make a motion for the recommendation of the Committee of the Whole, followed by a motion to rise from the Committee of the Whole, at which time I will report out the bill as recommended by the Committee of the Whole. And thank you. So now I will take a short recess in order to bring in panel members. We are in recess. The committee of the whole is now called back to order. Colleagues, OFB as well as Department of Administration are en route, but we'll go ahead and get started with Guam Memorial Hospital. At this time, I'd like to recognize the CEO, Ms. Lillian Perez-Posadas, to introduce the team that she's brought down this evening, and then we will start with the round of questioning.
Thank you, Senator Duenas. To my right is Dr. Eusebio, Ricardo Eusebio. He is our Chief Medical Officer. To his right is Ms. Yuka Echanova. She is our Chief Financial Officer. To Ms. Yuka's right is Ms. Rodalyn Huardo. She is the Assistant Administrator of Operations. And to her right is Mr. Zaudi Tagadi, who is the Associate Administrator of Operations. And then next is Ms. Bell Rada. She is a registered nurse who oversees the professional support as the Assistant Administrator of Professional Support Services. To her right is Mr. Jesse Kenya. He is our HR Personnel Services Administrator. And then to his right is Ms. Christine Takaro. She is the Assistant Administrator for Nursing Services. Thank you.
Cesar Mansi, and just to the panel members, I'm sure you're very experienced with this, but I'll mention it again. When you're recognized, please also once again recognize yourself when you're speaking to keep the record straight of this committee of the whole. And we'll get started now. Senator San Agustin, you're recognized on the first round.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sorry about that, Senator. my bad. I need to swear in the panel members. We'll be right back to you. Yes.
Under penalty of perjury, do you affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Mr. Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed.
Cesar Mansi, Sergeant. Now we're official. Senator San Agustin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A simple question to the administrator. The governor submitted a bill for $40 million. When did it become a $40 million requirement?
When did it become a $40 million?
When did it become $40 million?
Well, the number that she came about includes the 26 million that we owe vendors, which is our accounts payable, and that continues to grow on a daily basis.
When did it start?
The 40 million?
When did the 26 start to grow? How many years back? Because I know most of you weren't in GMH, so I know you can only give a little bit of a history. I know Yuko, you weren't. You were at OPA. So if you can give us a little history of when that 26 started to grow.
It's currently at 26 million, sir. But the receivables don't go back all the way then. I'm going to say our accounts receivable is probably a year back at the most.
Okay. Now we back to you, Ms. Posadas. The 40 million, how did 40 million become the issue? The magic number 40 million.
Well, that includes the 26 million of the AP, and then we also have some CIPs that are in the works, and so we need to have funding for that.
What's that dollar amount?
Well, if we take away the 26 million from the 40, then that leaves us, what, 24? No, 14.
14, right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Posadas, how many years have you been with GMH?
I'm sorry, I got distracted. What was the question?
How many years have you been with GMH? I'm just trying to bring a little history to the body, because I've been part of this body since the 34th legislature.
Yes.
Okay, and there's been many issues that we have addressed for GMH.
Correct.
That it was never entertained. So I just wanted to get a little history so everybody can understand the history that you have with GMH.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Collectively, I've been a nurse since 1977, and I've worked at GMH as a staff nurse, and also elsewhere. I've worked elsewhere. But for this position that I'm in right now, I started in January 2019.
Okay, in 2019. Okay. You remember what happened in 2021, right? That dealt with GMH.
Yes, sir,
And what was
remember.
that specifically that was supposed to help GMH? Can you enlighten everybody? Or if you want, I can help you with this.
Sure, I'll welcome whatever help you can provide because there's been so
Okay.
many things that have happened.
Okay, and on October 2021, the governor signed into Substitute Bill 121-36 into public law. I'm going to be very specific, okay? So that 36-56, and that was to fund the complex, the municipal medical complex, correct? And if you remember correctly, because you were there, it was to identify $35 million a year that we would put in the budget to make sure if you went to the bond, you could build a hospital. Because $300 million was supposed to come from, if I'm correct, probably FEMA or from other federal source of funding. So really, the $35 million you'd get, you're supposed to be able to generate $700 million. You wouldn't need all that money, but it would be more than enough. And then in addition to that, $21 million was identified to rehabilitate in 21. And that's why I wanted to know, where did the 26 start? Because when you want to talk about the 14 million CIP, that should have been resolved since 21. So I'm trying to understand all this excitement, because I support the new hospital. That was my bill. And it was supported by majority, because we wanted the new hospital to happen. No doubt. 21. It's now 4 years, now working the 5th year. Has GMH ever approached GIDA about going into the bond to get funding so that you can cover the building and the maintenance, which was very specific in the bill. 21 million was to help bring, rehabilitate GMH and bring it to accreditation status. Has anybody approached GIDA and said, hey, can we consider it? Can we look at it? Can we get out of the hole we're in? Because I know for a fact, my father was a speaker or a senator for the legislature for 20 years, and he said, it's never last. It's a well that you can never fill up. But if you build a new hospital, it changes the whole program. It changes all the record keeping. It changes a lot of things where your reimbursement can be a lot better. Has there been any movement to get GIDA to go after the market? 21 was the best time when we had great credit. I don't know if our credit is still as good, but today's a different world. Has anybody pursued them? I mean, have you gotten instruction to pursue them? Let's start with that.
Our communication with GIDA, but specifically for those amounts of money that you had, proffered in your bill, unfortunately, we have not seen any of that money. And so...
And you won't, but have you knocked on the door of GIDA to say, GIDA, can we go to the market? Can we go to the bond? That's really what I'm asking. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't reach the GIDA, you'll never see that 35 million a year. Because that 35 is to pay the bond, to pay for the contractor to come in and say, we're going to break ground. Wherever GMH or the governor wants to break ground, it didn't matter to me where the hospital is going to be. Is that to build a hospital and to have 21 million available to fix the current hospital.
Okay. Well, those are great questions. And no, we have not had those deep dive discussions with GIDA with regards to the bond or the 35 million.
Okay. So really, Ms. Posadas, that's really what I wanted to ask, Mr. Chairman, is more that so because as we move forward, 14 million for CIP. I know in the past 5-6 years, we've addressed as much as we could for GMH. The vendors now, that's another issue. That's something that I know the accountants are going after them to say, hey, you owe us money, and then they challenge how much they should pay you. Then you counter it, and then you come up with what the final number is going to be. That's something you accountants have to figure out. But it just concerns me that your billing process is set in stone. Am I correct, Yuko? Your billing process, in other words, if you say it costs this much money for these drugs and for these procedures, are they locked in where the insurance understand that this is what you pay for services rendered? Or is it not? And if it's not, then how do you control billing?
We have a schedule with our fees on it, so all the things that we charge for are one standard rate across the board for everybody.
And did the insurance buy off on that? Because remember, you guys go to the insurance negotiation table, Mr. Burns here, they have to answer to that. if they agree to all the procedures and the costs,
Yes.
when you ask for reimbursement, are you getting it?
Not always, no. There's still denials that come in or things that are not covered by the insurance plans that fall on the responsibility of the patient.
But number one, I'm trying to understand how the insurance can say, no, I'm not going to pay you when they're required. Were they required to pay, or is it something where they say, no, the patient pays this? Then I can understand why GMH goes after revenue and tax to grab their income tax. I understand that. I worked at revenue and tax, so I'm very familiar with that. I'm just concerned is, then how do you get reimbursed for procedures that you provide service? You know, maybe I'm just trying to understand that, because it doesn't make sense. You're sending a bill, you're never going to get the money, because why? Number one, the insurance people are not locked into, it costs this much money to process the patient. And if they bought off on that, that's a paid bill. Now, if they say there's prorate, you paid 20% or 80%, where's that 20% coming from? Or what is the percentage that it fluctuates, that you can't get full reimbursement?
We do not get full reimbursement.
And why is that?
We have different we have a payer mix. So, for example, if we talk about Medicare or even Medicaid, they really don't pay the full rate, because we have a per diem rate that are, not negotiated, but those are the rates that are dictated by Medicare that tells us how much they're going to pay per day for the patients that are in the hospital.
And wasn't the medical folks like yourself were supposed to go after them and have them change the rate and raise it? I remember that was a discussion at one time.
Yes, we're trying that, but it's a very long process.
I know, but when did you start? I know you just started a couple of years ago. So when has it started? And the reason why I'm asking this is because this is not anything new. This is already starting to be, I mean, Lyndon will commit to that. This is 5-6 years ago. We
Correct.
need to change the rate. We need to get the federal government to acknowledge that the cost is going up on Guam.
Yes.
And once they can agree to that, then when we ask for reimbursement from the federal side, we'll get the money, correct?
Yes, you're correct.
So when is that process going to solidify so that we don't start saying we're not getting, because you only mentioned one area, Medicaid. What is the other area that we're not getting full reimbursement?
Well, there's Medicare, there's Medicaid. With the HMOs, with the private insurance companies,
Right.
we do deal with a number of denials that come in. Denials are items on the claim where they will not pay it for a variety of reasons. Sometimes we make a mistake, we coded it wrong, and so they'll send it back. We fix that and we rebill it. So that does delay us getting the payment, but we do fix those claims. There are some claims where, or items on the bill that the insurance, they will not cover it. It's not part of the plan where they'll cover it. So those will have to be paid by the patient.
And what is that amount percentage-wise? If it's a $100 bill as a bill, what is that percentage? You're saying 10%, 20%? What is it?
Usually about 20% will be the patient's
Yeah,
co-payment.
80-20 prorate, right?
Usually that's maybe the standard, yeah.
I'm just very concerned because 26 million in vendors, and a lot of that originated from reimbursement. What is the rate that you get when you go after revenue and tax to get their tax refund? Because I know revenue and tax is good at that. Soon they see that name, that name is caught. They don't get to run away at all. They can cry all they want until they go back to you to determine that you shouldn't be getting it. Because I know several of them have proposed to us when I was there.
We collect on average about maybe $4 to $5 million a year on the garnishments, but we send about $90 million worth of accounts to DRT. Not everybody files for their tax return every year. Some people don't even have a refund, so we'll never get the whole amount that we send to DRT. So it's about $5 million a year.
Have you used a collection agent outside of DRT to collect the money? Because you know, some folks, they don't have insurance, they don't file the tax, but they're making income, they just fail to file taxes?
Yes, we are in the middle of a solicitation process right now, procurement for for a collection agency. So we're hoping to have that start sometime in early next fiscal year.
Now, when you start with the collection agent, are you going to continue with revenue and tax? Because that's two different entities, and they
Yes.
shouldn't be mixed in.
We will still continue with the garnishment program. We want to use the garnishment first, and if that's not successful after a number of years, then we will refer it to a collection agency. So the collection agency and the garnishment will be different stages in the process of trying to collect from the patients.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, my time is running out. I'll wait for the next round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel, for being here.
Sidus Masi and colleagues, Mr. Ed Byrne is here now. DOA will be administering this $40 million, so, and he's been sworn in, so if you have any questions for him, he's here to provide information. Vice Speaker Ada, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the panel for coming down. Again, we're here looking at getting you guys funding for, and I know Ms. Posada said you were mentioning about 26 million going for the accounts receivable, correct? And do you guys have a listing of all the vendors that are in this 26 million? Can we have a copy of that, please?
Yes, I can provide you the most recent accounts payable.
Yeah. So every vendor that is on this list that is part of this 26 million is going to be paid, and we're not going to have to hear from them again, right? With the past due that is due to them.
That is the goal, correct. Yes, Senator.
All right. And then the other, in the bill, it calls for the Guam Memorial Hospital's capital improvement projects, including electrical system, operational costs, and supplies. Out of the 14 million remaining, because the 26 million is going to be dedicated to the vendors, right? 26 million. So of the 14 million, how is that going to be divvied up between the other allocations that are for here, the operational cost, supplies, and electrical system, CIP projects? How are you guys going to break that down?
Yes.
By priority, yes. Go ahead, Rod.
If I may, so on the CIP, what the plan is about $5 million for our IT network infrastructure, another $5 million for our to go towards the removal and replacement of our main electrical distribution panel and the issues that we have there and the sub-panels. And then that's about $10 million, and then another $1 million specifically for additional HVAC components to replace the things that are breaking down throughout the hospital, and then the remaining amount to be used for supplies and other things.
So $3 million for supplies?
Yes.
What supplies would be paid with this $3 million?
These are all the medical supplies that are needed in the hospital. Currently, a part of our issues that we have is we get into these not in stock situations, and so part of the plan is to address some of that.
And I heard that the media reported that I guess there's a mold issue again up at the hospital. I didn't hear any allocation for mold mitigation here.
Yeah. So part of the mold mitigation is related to our CIP projects, and so, sorry, HVAC, sorry, for the HVAC project. So the 1 million, actually, sorry, my math is all wrong, but the total is about $11 million specifically for our CIP projects. And yes, the part specifically dealing with the HVAC will address part of our mold remediation.
So when we're talking about HVAC, you're talking about parts and things of that nature, what's that going to run for the HVAC system? And how much are you allocating for mold mitigation in this $1 million?
If I may also just interject here, part of the mold mitigation is really we need to repair the roof and the envelope, because that's where the water comes in. So we need to fix that first and then dig into the walls to then, really make sure that whatever in the walls as far as mold mitigation, we need to take care of that internally. But the main thing that we need to fix is the envelope and the roof.
And what's that going to cost?
So that is going to cost us about $5 million for the roof and envelope, and the funding source for that is the part of the $15 million that was already appropriated per Public Law 36107.
Okay. Yes, so if we can get a complete list of all the vendors that are going to be paid with the $26 million, so in that way we can see exactly who is being paid and what is the aging of these invoices, and I hope it's going to be starting from the 90 days and prior, working its way up, so that we'll be able to clear out all those past dues, and perhaps maybe the vendors will be more sympathetic to our needs and be able to say, yeah, okay, since you paid off your aging invoices, then perhaps we can go ahead and continue to work with you and be able to provide you with your supplies and your needs. All right. That's probably the only questions I have for GMH. But Mr. Byrne, where's this $40 million coming from that the governor has placed into her bill and calling us into special session for?
Vice Speaker, as the bill says, is coming from the general fund.
Okay, so it's coming from the general fund, but is this any other additional funds that have been placed into the general fund, or where is this actually coming from? Is it a refund? Is it from bond refinancing? Where's this $40 million coming from?
Well, may I
Sure,
answer
please.
it in the best way I can?
Okay, thank
right?
you.
So, Bill 4438, the bill that was recently vetoed, used the term net projected unobligated fund year revenue balance when the bill appropriated expenditures beyond the revenue projection. That's a very indigestible way of describing it, and also it's a rather restrictive way of describing it. So the term general fund was used so that the necessary funds, and obviously the bill more than assumes that the funds are necessary, can come from the fund balance, from excess revenues, or from unexpended revenues.
Okay.
All these are anticipatory parts of the balance, but the thinking behind it was that any of these types of contributions to the fund balance could be used.
I see. Okay. So then, this, when DOA appropriates it to GMH, appropriated to the general fund to fund GMH hospitals, will you be paying this out as they submit invoices, and how will you be doing this?
That's exactly the point, sir.
Yeah.
These revenues aren't there entirely yet. Some of them may be because they're already in the fund balance, but the entire amount isn't there yet. And as they arise or are earned, yes, they will be distributed to GMH in much the same way as the pharmaceutical fund is distributed as it arises.
So if GMH turns in their $26 million AP invoice, you won't be able to pay out the entire $26 million until you get some whatever funds are available. Is that correct?
That is correct, but actually some of that is due to the government, so that will automatically be paid.
Let's see. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Mr. Chair, I'll just go ahead and yield the rest of my time and let my colleagues ask their questions, and I'll go on to the second round. Thank you.
Jesus Masi, Vice Speaker. Senator Calvo, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I'd like to say thank you for coming here, everyone, the whole panel, in such a short notice. And I know we're probably going to be here late, right? Honestly, everything that's going on in my mind is Vice Speaker asked, and I asked this earlier before we started the session, where are we getting the $40 million, and if this is truly available. So I'm on the same page, and I'm wondering if it's something that will really address the issues that we are confronted with. But you, Mr. Byrne, you answered some of that questions. And at this point, I don't really have much questions, mostly doubts and curiosity in my head. But I do echo the sentiments of my previous colleagues that spoke earlier with regards to the list of vendors. If we could please send that over to us. And I understand that there's a lot of priorities that needed to be addressed, right? And we just wanted to see how we can work things out for everyone. But on that note, I am going to yield the rest of my time for now, and I'm gonna wait for everyone else to throw in their sentiments. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Sidus Masi, Senator Cabo. Senator Titagui, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Half a day, everyone. Thank you. Hopefully, we'll break soon and start again tomorrow, but because we've been through this on the budget bill for quite some time, working the wee hours, and hope we don't have to do that here. The bill seems very simple when it comes to explaining that we're going to be using, to me, FY25 revenue to pay for this $40 million. Now, we are not even in FY26 yet, so I can only assume that the projected FY25 excess revenue is going to play a part in this $40 million. Is that true, Mr. Byrne?
It's likely to form part of that, yes.
Right. So right now, if we do that, $16 million will be taken away from Simon Sanchez. $10 million will be taken away from the rainy day fund. So that's 26. Then we're also going to be taking away Guam Cancer Trust Fund. We will take away Guam Memorial Operations. We actually had excess revenue. That was in 2026. I'm sorry. Let me go further down to all the...
Senator, we're in this. They're talking about fiscal 25 revenues that we're in right now.
Right. And these are all excess revenues that
This doesn't affect the budget that we just passed.
Right. But this is all revenue that we appropriated in the budget bill for FY25 excess revenue. And according to Mr. Burns, this $40 million is based on FY25. So we had appropriated all this money in excess over, I think it was 30 some, Mr. Chair, can we get that amount? How much did we use in excess revenue for FY25?
You can direct that to OFB.
OFB, can you tell me how much money did we use in FY25 excess revenue on, and it start with Simon Sanchez?
Based on the allocation, Senator, that we utilized, the amount in the budget bill was $34,581,648. 34 million.
Okay, and that was excess revenue to be used, right?
Yes.
Based on the CRER.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Byrne, do you think that we're going to get any excess, $40 million worth of additional excess revenue in September or in August and September?
Well, there's a kind of red button and a green button.
Yeah.
Because the red button is that the governor's bill, which has the rollback of the BPT, which would generate like $41 million.
But that's in FY26.
That's
I'm talking about 25.
Yes, but like my answer to the Vice Speaker's question was, why is it coming from the fund balance? And part of the reason it's coming from the fund balance is that some of it will come from 25, and some of it will have to come from 26.
But the bill just says general fund.
Yes.
So that means by just saying general fund, it opens the gate.
Yes.
To 25 and 26.
25 and 26, yes.
Is that the way you see it, Steve? The question is, that it opened the gate, by having this bill, they're going to be able to tap into FY25 and FY26 general revenue?
But may I just be a little bit more detailed about
Sure.
that? From because it's a fund balance, it will be from that part of the general fund balance that results from the fiscal 25 accounting.
Yeah, excess funding.
Well, it's because it's a fund balance.
Because we've already
it's
appropriated.
the difference between the revenues and the expenditure.
Okay. So, Mr. Burns, don't you think it would be easier to say in this bill to say that using excess revenue for FY25 and any excess revenue in FY26?
Well, that would restrict it. I mean, that's you could choose to restrict it, but in view of the fact, and you just pointed out that there are other demands, it would seem more useful to open it up to the three elements that I spoke about earlier.
That kind of, plays with money that's already been appropriated, because we passed the balanced budget, right, in FY25. So how are we going to get this 40 million in FY25 when we already passed the budget unless we're using excess revenue?
Well, you balanced it by already appropriating.
Right. So you have to use excess revenue.
An unobligated fund revenue balance.
Right. So you do use excess revenue. That's why it's just an open door. Your perception is it's an open door. Is that, Steve, your perception too? That this bill will allow him to use excess revenue in 25 without even mentioning excess revenue in 25 and going into 26?
Senator, I think we need to go back a little bit and kind of like compare apples and apples. When we're talking about excess revenues, we're talking about excess revenues being anticipated to be generated by the end of FY25. That amount, if you look at the CER report, is showing it's about $35 million.
Right.
What Mr. Burns is referring to is the fund balance, which is not only taking into account 25, but is taking into account all balances prior to FY25. So that accumulated balance is what Mr. Burns is referring to, is that we can go ahead and identify the excess revenues we project in 25, which right now stands about 35 million, and then whatever the fund balance has to come up with the remaining 5 million to come up with the 40 million that the governor is requesting. So it's not like 35 million is all we have to play with. It's 35 million is what we have to play with when we're talking about excess revenues for 25.
Mr.
But
Burns,
the general fund balance is different.
Right, Mr. Byrne, then fund balance in the OPA's report for FY24, do we have that estimated? How much is in excess there? FY24?
I have an estimate.
How much is that in FY24 excess?
It's about 31 million.
So we have 30 million in FY24 that you're anticipating at the end of the audit.
I'm anticipating will be an addition to the fund balance when the final numbers are drawn up. Yes.
For FY24.
For FY24.
What about 23?
23, it's already published, is 29 million.
29 million,
yes,
you're saying. Okay, so we've got 29 million that you believe in FY23 and 30 million from the auditor, your anticipated amount of 30 million in FY24. Gee.
Yes.
Okay, so why didn't you just utilize that funding? Because based on the Bill 44-38 that was passed, we only used excess revenue for 25 and 26. So why didn't this bill come to us to say use any excess revenue, audited revenue in 24 and 23?
That wouldn't have enabled you to use the fund balance for 23 because it's already in the fund balance. I think I explained at the time that we were doing the budget that excess revenues disappear at the end of the year and get absorbed into the fund balance.
Steve, can you elaborate on that? Kind of explain to us what he means by that? In layman's terms, because it's not just us listening. I'm sure the listening audience is wanting to know this too as well.
I think Mr. Guerrero will be kind of happier if I tried to help you understand it.
Well, you don't mind. I'd like to hear it from OFB since he
Okay, but
oversees the legislature. And
May I just say what I was going to say, and then you're welcome to talk to him, right?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Byrne.
When we actually finalize the financial statements, right, the revenues and the expenditures are matched and offset. And if the revenues exceed the expenditures, that would be an addition to the fund balance. But after the year end, just like any other corporation or business, you start again with your revenues and expenditures for the new financial year. So that was why I was trying to explain that they're used because they're in the fund balance.
Senator, I would explain it exactly the same way. So what it is that after 1 year's over, whatever that balance is, not taking into account what happened the next fiscal year, is that balance actually carries over to the next fiscal year. And whatever the fund balance is for that particular fiscal year, either you add it or you subtract it, whatever the case may be, and that now becomes the fund balance after September 30th of any given fiscal year.
You know, it's so much easier that at the end of the year, right, when you have appropriated, let's say, $800 million, and you've appropriated the full $8 million because you estimated a projected revenue of $8 million. But actually, in reality, it came out to $9 million. So to me, that's $100 million is excess revenue. And that's when the body comes in here and starts spending that excess revenue, which we've been doing, before an audit. That's been, go ahead, Mr. Byrne.
Yeah, but could I also add, and I know this is another complication, that the CRAR shows you the collected revenues. The financial statements, the audit, shows you the earned revenues. And they're not always the same. Indeed, in the last few years, earned revenues have been greater than the collected revenues, and that's what I think led to the term excess revenues.
But this body looks at the CRER to determine whether there's any funding excess revenue available so that we can appropriate to other areas that fell short in the prior budget bill, which we did in this 44-38. So to tell me that there's 30 million and in 2024 and 29 was 29 million, are you saying that that money is realized, it's still there, or has that money been spent?
Well, it's only been spent if you spent it.
Okay, so it hasn't been, so the question is, have we spent it? Have we spent it?
Have you spent it? Yes, you've already appropriated some against the fund balance, and that was what I was trying to make sure that you understood.
Okay, so you're saying that we have spent some of this 2020, because I don't want anybody here thinking that there is, 30 million sitting around from excess revenue in 24 and then 29 in 23. So now we're at 25, which we spent pretty much everything in the CRER report showing at 35 million. We pretty much spent everything. And we even tapped in to 2026, not even knowing what the climate is. We tapped into using that funding. So the 40 million, I just don't know where you're going to find that funding.
As I said a few minutes earlier, it's anticipatory, just like a budget, right? This is kind of like doing a supplementary budget. You're anticipating some revenues, but
we're anticipating that revenue before FY26.
Well, yes, because as you already pointed out, right, there is likely to be a surplus in fiscal 24.
Right, so 24.
We don't know about fiscal 25 because we haven't completed it. And part of this equation is obviously the the addition that we make to the financial statements to record taxes receivable.
So, Mr. Byrne, based on what we passed, this body passed in Budget Bill 44-38, and based on this $40 million that's been brought in front of us, is any of that money in jeopardy? Any of these appropriations that we made for excess 25 in jeopardy if this bill should pass?
I don't think so. You have the ability, though, to, well, you as a body have the ability to prioritize expenditures and prevent specific expenditures from being overridden. Otherwise, they would all rank equally. Right?
Well, Mr. Byrne, prioritize, that's funny because I do know that even though we appropriate excess revenue, it's actually up to you and the governor which gets paid first.
That, in cash terms, that's correct. Yes.
Right. So you decide what gets paid first. So you don't have to put, 16 million or 10 million to the rainy day or Simon Sanchez. You can actually put it to this 40 million. So, right?
Yes, but
yeah. So you have that control.
The bill as written, right, is trying to make sure that this need, which wasn't recognized in the budget bill, is recognized. And of course, as I said, the red button is don't roll back the BPT because it's roughly the same amount of money.
Okay. Now, for the hospital, how much funding is needed to repair the damage that was caused by the fire at Guam Memorial Hospital?
The planning has put together the quantification of the cost. I haven't gotten the final. Rosalind, do you have that? Or Zaudi?
If I recall, it's about 26,000.
So the repair of the electrical fire that happened right now is only $26,000?
Just specific for the components that burnt out, and for the motor and then the electrical panel itself, it's about 26,000.
Wow, it was making it sound earlier. Then where did this 17 or $16 million come from to repair?
The whole package of the electrical panel that we have on the first floor that's sitting right next to that 20-ton water reservoir, that all has to be then relocated right away from the water tank. So that's where all that, and it's not just the electrical panel distribution, but the generators that come with it.
So to ensure that to ensure that there's not another fire, and to be safe, to fix that panel now and where the water's located so it doesn't cause any issues there would be 17 million.
Well, and those are the sub-panel parts that come, and those sub-panels are up in the various floors.
So not only to repair it, the damage, which is only 26, but yet this can happen again.
Correct.
So in order to avoid that, you need at least $17 million to avoid any future fires, which could be potential.
Yes.
Did
Senator.
DPW walk through after the fire? Did they walk through and DPW, did they walk through?
GPA did.
GPA did. What about DPW? Did they walk through to see if everything was still in order? No? DPW is not needed?
Just GPA.
Okay. What about fire?
Yes. GFD came on the day of the incident.
Right.
They came and they did a walkthrough in every floor, particularly in the third floor where the electrical fire was, in that breaker room, and then on the fourth floor in the pediatric area. Go ahead, John.
And did they provide you an assessment?
Yes, ma'am. They did submit a assessment report of their findings. So it was GFD who came in and did, together with our facilities maintenance crew, did the assessment of all those affected areas.
So it's about 17 million. Okay, Lillian, can you tell me in your request during the budget, how much for capital improvement did you request for?
the May budget request that we submitted, it was 29 million for CIPs.
Okay. How much did you get in FY25 for CIPs?
We didn't get any for CIPs. No, ma'am. No, Senator.
Okay. Okay, my time is almost up. I appreciate your answers. Mr. Byrne, it's like anybody will, it's confusing on how do you explain how money is being, you know, I call it the shell game on any funding, but is any of this funds that you're anticipating, this 40 million, if the BPT stays where it is, I mean, not stays where it is, but is at 4.5, I mean, yeah, 4.5 in FY26 as in Bill 44-38, and then in October next year when it goes to a full 4%, would this jeopardize this $40 million that you're requesting for in this, or the governor's requesting for in this bill?
Well, fiscal 27, I think, is a separate consideration. I think it's anticipated that the needs of GMH are immediate and therefore must be addressed in 26. But yes, it would. Right.
Okay, so in other words, if we don't keep the 5%, then it will jeopardize this bill, correct?
It would certainly make it less easy to achieve.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Chadwick. Senator Perez, you recognize?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess the question that I have is regards to the war claims. So since let me look at this really quick. Since 2017, we've been setting aside several millions of dollars up until 2022 for war claims adjudication. Have we received, or when do you expect to receive any funds that were not utilized? Or do you have an accounting of how much we received that wasn't spent or adjudicated?
Okay, Senator, the war claims were paid out in this fashion. The federal government withheld funding from our regular Section 30 cover-over payment, and they paid out the claims out of those withholdings. Towards the end of the process, when these weren't being paid out quickly enough, we took over the payment of the war claims, and the federal government reimbursed us basically out of our own money. And the whole amount that was paid out, if I remember correctly, coincidentally was around about something under 40 million.
Sorry, excuse me, how much?
Just under 40 million,
40
I believe,
million,
yes.
40 million from the feds or
In
total?
the total war claim payout, which lasted for several years. The payout ceased under federal law on a particular date, which I don't actually recall. And since everything has been paid out, the federal government has restored our Section 30 to the full amount. And that's what's included in the current budget bill.
Okay. So was there any amount that was in excess, that was not paid out, that was returned to the government?
No, there was a full reconciliation, and whatever was paid out by the federal government was the amount that was reconciled to the Section 30.
Okay. Do you recall how much was set aside per year since 2017?
Well, it wasn't. It was depended on individual claims being submitted and adjudicated. So it wasn't a single amount for each year. It depended upon the claims that were submitted for each year.
Okay. So, but do you have that accounting as far as how much was set aside?
Yes, I don't have it about me, but I do have it, yes.
because I guess my question is, was there any excess that was returned back to the Treasury, our Treasury?
No, it was a dollar-for-dollar reconciliation.
Okay. It was my understanding that they actually kept it ahead, so they were holding on to it, assuming that was going to be
They
utilized.
withheld it from our Section 30 remittance to fund, because the federal government under that statute wasn't allowed to fund it, so they had to withhold the amount from the Section 30 in order that we, or the war claimants here could be paid.
Okay. All right. But yeah, if you can provide that information, I would appreciate that.
Yes, Senator.
Okay. And going back to the line of questioning by Senator Taitigui, so it seems like the source of money, this pot of money that would go for this bill of $40 million, are you saying that it would come from the fund balance of 2023 and 2024? Is that what you're implying or stating?
It will come from the general fund balance, and that's the way it's actually described in the bill.
Okay. And so are we looking at those years where the source, that pot of money is going to come, where it's going to come from?
Well, the general fund balance, it gets amalgamated. So when you close off, it's kind of like the same answer. When you close off a financial year, the fund balance that results from that year, from fiscal 24, will be amalgamated with the existing balance for fiscal 23.
Wait,
So-
sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
When you close off the financial statements, the accounts for fiscal 24, whatever the result is accumulated into the fund balance that was carried forward from fiscal 23.
Okay.
And likewise for fiscal 24 to 25.
Okay, so what we saw in the CRA report isn't the complete picture because the fund balance.
The CRAR doesn't give you the fund balance.
Okay.
No.
So what I'm hearing is that the 30 million, say the 30 million fund balance of 2024, is the minimum that we would expect from 2025, considering we appropriated all the collected money? Is that correct?
Well, I'm not quite sure what you're asking, but the number that I just was asked and estimated for fiscal 24, those numbers are basically almost firm because the books are closed and the audit's underway and is partially through. So those numbers are already established and really aren't, unless the legislature chooses to use some of that, it's already there and established and is a firm number.
So then that 30 million of the 40 million appropriation is solid?
Well, it's a solid estimate. I mean, we still haven't finished the audit, but based upon the best estimate that I can give you sitting here today, yes.
Okay, in the budget bill, they did appropriate some of that 2024 funds towards GVB. So is that 30 million, are we subtracting what was appropriated for GVB? And let me go back to that number. I believe it's 15.2 million, right? Sorry, it's fiscal year 2023. So in the budget bill that was passed, 15.2 million from fiscal year 2023 of audited excess is going to go towards GVB and the hospital. So 10 million to GVB, 5.2 million to the hospital. So does this fund balance, does it subtract that 15.2 million?
No, Senator, that's what I meant when I said it's only spent if you spent it, because the accounts are finalized, not anticipating a new budget.
Okay.
The new budget can certainly, you have the authority to appropriate that amount, but the financial statements are already, almost finalized. Otherwise, we would never close off any year.
Okay, so is it conceivable that we are appropriating, so is it possible that a fund balance, in this case, we appropriate the money, but it's not allocated? So let's say this bill is passed, the 40 million. Are we appropriating the same funds from the same fund? So like the budget bill is appropriating money from that fund balance, or the source of where the fund balance is coming from. And then let's say this bill passes. Are these competing basically needs, and one is going to be allocated the funds, the other one isn't? Is that one of the outcomes of this?
Yes, they rank, at the moment they rank equally because there's no priority. But the way the bill is written is if that happens, then new revenues that aren't being appropriated, because it could be used, because it's in the fund balance.
Okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. So this question's for GMH. Have you explored the possibility of developing an MOA with GPA in regards to not only assessing the electrical damage, but also utilizing their procurement expertise in regards to especially the electrical panel?
So we currently have an MOA with GPA for the assessment, but when we revisited it recently, it does also allow us to request assistance from GPA in an emergency situation for the staff to come and assist. But that's related to the electrical components and not specific to procurement.
Okay. Have you had difficulty in any response to procurement or RFP, a bid or RFP? Or have you always had vendors that are willing to respond? Is there a case where nobody responded to your solicitations?
Yeah, so we've had some situations where we have not received a response to a specific bid. Case in point is the MCH procurement that we did issue out an IFB, and unfortunately we did not get any bidders to submit.
Sorry, what's the MCH?
The Maternal Child Health Renovation Project. So that's one example wherein we put out an IFB, but unfortunately did not get any bidders to submit on the project. But typically, we're able to at least get a few bidders to submit, depending on what the solicitation is.
Okay. Yeah, I think those. I guess the question. Maybe I'll think about. Is there a next round of questioning? Is there 2 rounds? Okay. Yeah, so to me, the question is there enough funds? I mean, obviously, 40 million is needed, at least is needed, and whether we can fill that gap. So we've identified 30 million, right? Where would that other 10 million come from? Any ideas?
Well, like I said in response to the senator, I mean, as far as the administration is concerned, the first stop is the BPT rollback. Right? It happens to be the same amount roughly the same amount of money. So the whole amount could come from there. Absent that, you could certainly, because you're talking about the fund balance, right? There's 29 million from fiscal 23 and estimated, and please remember it's an estimate, estimated 30 million for fiscal 24 and an unknown amount for fiscal 25. And as I say, most of this fund balance comes from the difference between the collected revenues and the earned revenues. And because revenues have been increasing, it's been an addition to the fund balance. Were revenues to decrease, that would be the reverse effect, but we haven't seen that yet. So the expectation is that there would be a further addition to revenues in fiscal 25.
So one of the things in the budget bill that was passed was the elimination of military contracts above $10 million. Was there any reassessment of the impact of that financially? So what are we, I mean, initially it was 40 million for 0.5% of BBT rollback. Has there been assessment to adjust to that change?
I don't believe so, Senator.
Okay. Maybe this question's for OFB. Has there been any estimate of what that would mean as far as BBT, I guess, a decrease in the rollback amount?
Senator, working with revenue taxation, they say they're doing their best to try to collect whatever is owed to them based on what currently is what the law says. I've asked them ever since January of this year, what would be the impact, in every one of these categories should we don't collect or the law changes. And right now, they don't have the capability of determining that right now. So I can't say today whether or not there is any negative or a positive impact regarding, these contracts that were supposed to be being executed and supposed to be doing now. So as Mr. Burns said, it's very hard to determine whether or not we're gaining or we're losing anything. The only thing at least I can say is right now is as long as it doesn't change the rate of collection we're doing, it's hard to determine whether or not there's any negative impact on it.
Okay, thank you. Maybe a follow-up question for GMH. Do you have a plan in place as far as, do you have all your solicitations ready to go once his appropriations made?
We have some, but not all. We're currently working on the scope of work for some of the IT network pieces, but specifically for the electrical panel, we should be able to get that going soon after.
Okay, so I know in one of the I guess partnerships with GPA and DOE, they were very helpful in developing the scope of work for a lot of that. So you're saying that MOA doesn't include that, developing scopes of work?
The plans that we have for the main distribution panel has been completed since 2019. So that was done, and a copy to GPA was given before for their review and comments.
Okay, so no need for GPA's help at this point for the development of scope of work?
Not for the scope of work, but we do want them also to be involved because since 2019, the plans and specification that was provided is outdated already. So if there's any concern as far as updating those plans and specification, we can work together with GPA and see what their inputs are or comments.
Okay, so then is that part of your MOA agreement to help assist with the scope of work on that?
We can check on the MOA and see if that is specific to that.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess, once you're given the money, we want to be able to see it, any of these projects come to fruition. So do you see a need for assistance from any agencies or anybody in the government at this time to help you expedite the work to update, I guess, the CIP projects? Is there any help that you need?
Well, specific to the plans, of course, we need DPWH, once submitted with the updated plans, to expedite the review for the permit.
Okay. All right. I think that's my questions for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sijus Masi, Senator Perez. Senator Montanani, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I just find it kind of interesting that we were just here several hours ago discussing the governor's substitute budget, which eliminated the $35 million amendment that I had included, which we passed, in the budget bill that was vetoed by her. Again, that was $35 million to go to the Guam Memorial Hospital, to redirect that money, which would have gone to the new hospital, to go where it is needed right now. And so here we are 7 hours later, and suddenly there's $40 million to go to the Guam Memorial Hospital right now. And obviously, yes, of course, I support anything to help the Guam Memorial Hospital, but I think for people watching, the people of Guam, it's kind of ironic that all of a sudden, 7 hours later, there's $40 million available. So, Mr. Byrne, is there any more money available other than this $40 million? And how long has this $40 million been available? And how long have you known about this $40 million? Because the Guam Memorial Hospital is in a state of emergency.
Yes, and that's why this bill is necessary.
Right, and apparently it seems that this $40 million has been available for a while.
But it hasn't been appropriable. So that is what we're asking for.
But you knew this
here.
$40 million was out there?
Well, it's not really, as I tried to explain, it's a surplus that turns into a fund balance. Strictly speaking, you shouldn't spend that fund balance. GFOA would say you need to build up a fund balance in your reserves because that's prudent accounting and that's how you should run your finances. However, this has struck, right? This I didn't know, but I do know now that the payables are, I think the last number I saw was 30 million. So, it's not really a question of, well, it's there or it's not there.
Okay, well, the reason why I asked that...
Prudent accounting is...
The reason why I asked that, Mr. Byrne, is because after the electrical fire, I not only went and toured the Guam Memorial Hospital, the acting governor, Josh Tenorio, was there. Then he invited me to Adelup a couple days later. And at that meeting was the Guam Power Authority. And we discussed this memorandum of agreement that was signed in 2023 between GMH and the Guam Power Authority. The only issue with that MOA was that it not only provided the scope of work, which outlined all of it to deal with the electrical panels, but it required GMH to pay for the services that GPA was going to provide. So at the end of that meeting, the acting governor asked Bree, do you have any comments? And I said, well, maybe instead of having GMH pay for these scope of services, the work, how about you just issue a directive for GPA to go in and help GMH? And he said, yeah, I'll issue a directive. And then I said, well, I will be, and I'll let my colleagues know that we will be on standby to help with whatever funding is needed. If we need to authorize the use of the rainy day fund or whatever, we're here to help. And I was told, no, we don't want to tap the rainy day fund because it'll have an impact on our bond rating. But we have the money. But by that afternoon, the governor comes back on island, and we get a response. We get these two bills one for extraordinary superpowers, and the other bill was about the new hospital. Nowhere in those bills did it specifically state Guam Memorial Hospital Authority, that money is going directly to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. This $40 million that suddenly appears is going to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority. So again, I ask, is there any more money out there that can go to the Guam Memorial Hospital Authority? Whether it's from FY 2024, FY 2023, wherever.
I think we're getting to, unadvisable levels of security. Like, as I just said, the GFOA recommends that you build up reserves, because you and I, nor anybody in here, can know what might happen in the future.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Byrne. Mr. Byrne, when you went to D.C. and you asked for $400 million for the new hospital, did you ask for any money for the Guam Memorial Hospital?
Well, we didn't. I don't think we went just to...
just yes or no?
No, well, I'm still trying to answer the last question. The money that you're trying to say, right, is I think we both agree, vital to keep the hospital solvent, right? The hospital will go insolvent if it doesn't need this money.
Right, and you've known that. You've been at DOA for a long time.
Yes, I was there nearly 2 years.
If this money has been available, it should have just gone to GMH. We shouldn't be in this special session.
Well, I think that's the responsibility of both of us. But may
I wasn't here last year.
May I answer
I'm
your
here
second
now.
question?
Yes, please, please do.
The federal government...
Was Mr. Burns sworn in?
Yes, I was.
Okay, just making sure.
The federal government generally believes that the hospital is a local issue. Right? They'll certainly allow us to have whatever aid is available generally to the territories for hospitals, but they think that the running of a local hospital is a local issue. They recognize that, if you want me to go into a little bit into some of the meetings we had,
I just asked Mr. Byrne, did anybody that went to DC ask for any money for the Guam Memorial Hospital?
No, because that wasn't...
it's always been the priority.
That wasn't...
All the talk has been about building the new hospital, not helping GMH
yes.
today. It's the only hospital, civilian hospital that we have. And it just seems like this has not been a priority.
Well, I think it's a priority for me.
It is today. We got a bill for $40 million.
We've got a bill, right? Yes, that's true. The federal government, the purpose of our visit was to find money for the new hospital and other facilities. We weren't invited there to speak about GMH. We were invited to a different purpose.
The answer's no. Right, the answer's no.
We
no
weren't
request
invited.
for the Guam Memorial Hospital.
We weren't invited
Not
for that
even
purpose.
5 cents or a penny. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. I'm done with my questions. Thank you.
Senator Montanani. Senator Borja, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. GMH, just a couple questions, because I know we've had different numbers thrown around over, at least since I've been here the last 8-9 months. In regards to just the breakdown, I know earlier you said out of this 40 million, 26 million was for vendors, right? And we're going to provide that list. 14 million for CIP. Just off the top of your head, or if you have a list there, if you can just break down, simplified version of what that 14 million in regards to the CIP, because even when we get into like the electrical panel, a couple weeks ago, I think when the speaker and Senator Salas Matanani brought up a possible emergency session to address the fire and the incident that happened, they said, they're going to need 22 or 25 million. I forgot what that number was. And then earlier in the introduction, you talked about just 14 million for CIP, but you said 10 million for the panel, But then I think when one of my other colleagues asked, you talked about just 26,000. So what exactly in the CIP breakdown as part of this budget or this bill or is going to be covered in the CIP?
Yes, so if you recall back in when you called us into session last time, the question I was asked was, what is the amount that is needed for CIP? So I went back to our budget book here that was also provided to everyone. And in here, there's a breakdown of $29.3 million in CIP. And of that $23 million, there's about $5 million in there to cover the costs. And I did, if I recall, I said this is only a partial cost for to address our main electrical distribution panel. So that's $5 million there. In addition to that, there's another $5 million in there specific to address the IT network infrastructure needs of the hospital. And then there's another about $1 million to address HVAC components. So that comes up to about $11 million right there. And then earlier I mentioned there's an additional $3 million to make up the $14 million, which we will then use for medical supplies. And as we all know, $3 million is not going to cover everything. But if that's what we're going to get, you know, then we're going to try to figure out what are the most critical items that we're going to need to cover in that. So that's the 14 million. Now, your question about the 26 million, and I do have to state that I stand corrected because I did check with our planning department while in the middle of this, and the total amount that we submitted as a claim to the insurance company is $18 million, not the 26. So I stand corrected for that. And again, that 18 million is just to address the immediate replacement of that motor and the burnt panel. And that's it. But it's not, you know, everything else. And so we've already submitted that to the insurance company, and they're going to then schedule a time to, of course, visit the hospital to make their own assessment and all of that. So that number may change, but that's just the initial estimate that we provided just to address that specific replacement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I mean, I'm
Thank
still a little confused, but I understand it a little better in regards to just why the numbers are very different. Mr. Byrne, a question in regards to, in the bill, it's directing that the money be transferred to the Department of Administration rather than straight to GMH. Do you know what the thought process was behind that?
Yes, Senator, and thank you for asking that. I think there are several thought processes. The first one is, as I mentioned earlier, a good part of the amount that's owing is actually owed to the central government. So it would really come off the top. The two, you know, I think the biggest amount owing is actually owed to the self-insurance fund. I think it's, maybe you would ask Yuka later, but I think it was something like 8 million. The second reason is that, as we've been discussing, some of this funding arises, it doesn't all arise at once, and it doesn't always arise ratably. So that will enable us, just like the pharmaceutical fund, to transfer whatever is needed to them in an acceptable way. And I think the third reason is we have found that when we were dealing with, and we've been paying some of the liabilities in addition to them, we have found that there have been some compliance issues, and we want to weed those out because compliance issues delay audits, and that's the last thing any of us wants. So those are the three main reasons.
Then I guess my follow-up question after that is, if that, if that's the case in regards to not sure when that $40 million will come, or even in pieces to where it's something that could address any of the things that have been discussed, is what was the, considering we've been called into special session, what was the estimated timeline in regards to what the governor was thinking to call us in now, pass this bill, and then address the issues that GMH is asking for support with? What was the timeline, I guess, and was it just, let's pass this bill and we'll see what comes out of that, and hopefully it brings some relief?
Well, I think there were several earlier attempts which fell on fallow ground, but during, every day, I think the situation deteriorates, and the governor finally, I think this morning, got to the point where she thinks that immediate and urgent action is necessary.
Thank you. Lillian, just real quick, my final question is in regards to, I know he explained, and maybe there was some discussion, or what are your thoughts in regards to, you guys comfortable, or Yuka, with the money going to DOA? Should it become available? What are you guys hoping to get from this appropriation?
Thank you so much for that question. The question about being comfortable, actually, we'd rather that we have the money, and so that way we pay out those vendors and we record it in our system, because what we experienced DOA, and we thank DOA for paying it, it's just that sometimes we don't get the information, and so we don't find out that this vendor gets paid. And so it would be really more advantageous for us to have the money in our account so that we can then make sure we pay those vendors directly and we have it in our system accurately. Thank you.
Maybe we can find a middle way on this.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you, Mr. Byrne. No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Bora. Senator Lujan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, panel, for being here this evening. Mr. Burns, or anybody up in the panel, are you comfortable that there will be $40 million there for GMH?
Oh, well, speaking for myself, I'm never comfortable. These are all estimates.
Sure.
A budget is an estimate. Is it a reasonable estimate? Yes, I think it's a reasonable estimate.
Okay.
Is it a necessary estimate? Yes,
sure.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and that's why we're here.
Yes.
Is it reasonable? Is it necessary?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, we're here. And the reason why I was asked this, because in the budget bill, Senator Sabrina Salas-Matanani had appropriated $35 million, and it was labeled by the administration as a phantom appropriation. And it was labeled because of the same reasons that you're giving. You're not really comfortable with it, but is it necessary and is it needed? So would you consider this as well a phantom appropriation?
Well, that was a specific issue which related back to some legislation passed in prior years. And I know that caused some consternation, but there is no money left
But the
after
reasoning is, again, their anticipation. The reasoning is anticipation, but also that is much needed as well. So it's a different definition of a phantom then. It's a different phantom then, right? That's the phantom of the opera, and this is the phantom of the budget, right?
Yes,
appropriations. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So we know that there are two different definitions for the phantom. Anyway, that being said, again, for the hospital, 40 million. Okay, 26 for vendors, and then 14 million is a balance. 5 million for electrical distribution. Another 5 for the IT network, HVAC, 1 million, 3 million for supplies, medical supplies. What do they consist of? Medical supplies. That's not pharmaceuticals, right? That's minus pharmaceuticals.
No, we're talking about one moment.
IV tubing.
Yeah, IV tubings and other medical supplies, but also we have $1.4 million for the 80 beds, hospital beds. We have the life pack defibrillators as well as stretchers. So, I mean, just to name some of the items.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm asking this, because I know in October 23, we had, it was my amendment actually, that infused GMH with 30 million. And here we are now, another 10 million. There's 40 million now. How long would this 40 million sustain the hospital operations before another cash infusion is required? I mean, because obviously, we're going to be here again. We have a budget that's probably, is going to start up again, and we're going to be here again talking about the same thing. So how long will this 40 million last before we're here talking about the same thing and accusing us of not funding the hospital?
Quite honestly, Senator, it's never going to be enough because we haven't answered.
How long would this last? It's never enough. Absolutely.
I think until you answer until you give a solution to the problem, then it's going to be enough. And the solution to the problem involves taking care of those people who are self-pays that comes in the emergency room, taking care of the fact that we can only charge $1,600, we can only get reimbursed $1,600 for Medicare, and yet we spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 per patient. Taking care of those people who are in the hospital who continue to stay there because they're homeless and we can't discharge them, which we spend a significant amount per day for each of those patients. Sure. Taking care of the people who are in DOC and taking care of DOC clinic.
And I understand all that.
All those things.
No, I understand all that. I understand all that. So that being said, you know all that. How long would this take us? How far would this take us down the road? That's what I'm saying. Knowing all that you're saying all that we have to do because we have to take care of this long term, and until we solve that long term problem, how long would this 40 million last? Knowing that you're having to do this right now on a daily basis, how long would this take us to?
Well, if we pay off the $26 million to the vendors and we continue the supplies, they're going to continue to charge us. It's an ongoing, because we need those supplies on a daily basis. Lyndon, so this 40 million, we pay the 26 million for the vendors, it will continue to build up again.
Okay, so would we be back again in another 6 months, a year, all that? Again, knowing that we still have those problems, insurance companies maybe, and infusion of folks coming in here that to the hospital that can't pay. So you have all those stats. So that's what I'm asking. My question is, how long do you think this would last? We're trying to find long-term solutions to this thing. So my question is just very simple. How long do you think this 40 million will last us?
It's not going to last long.
Okay,
and so
maybe 6 months, a year from now, a year?
Not even 6 months.
Not even 6 months? Okay, so maybe 6 months, right? Maybe?
Senator, I'm not sure if my mic is on. Test. So, Senator, what this amount will do will ensure we make it through the fiscal year approved by the Board of Trustees. There's an operating budget of $213 million, of which we articulated the operational need in addition to the needs for accounts payable and for CIP and IT projects. This money will bring us to fruition throughout the remainder of FY26 when that period begins October 1st. And then we will be back again with our funding request needs for the subsequent fiscal year. I don't think we're going to be here next month. That's the desire. That's the hope. But this will be able to pay off our vendors.
Possibly next fiscal year we'll be meeting the same thing. And that's just my question. Yeah. Because again, we have long-term problems and we don't have the solutions for them as well. So that's what I'm saying, because we don't want to say that 40 million and then 5 years from now, well, we gave you 40 million 5 years ago. What did you do with that? So I'm just saying, how long would this, knowing again the problems that we have, and I'm sure on an annual basis the cost of medicines and things of that nature, will rise. So that's just my question. How long would this last? Because we need to know as a body to anticipate that you're going to be in here in 6 months or a year with another need for another 30 or 40 or maybe even 50 this time, because prices will go up.
Senator, I can illustrate for you even the existing period. So fiscal year 2025, the hospital presented a budget request need of $72 million to my best recollection. Yet the legislature appropriated $58 million, leaving a deficit. So we were already operating at a shortfall, even if we met our goals or exceeded our goals for net patient revenue. So the real question remains, will the legislature be able to appropriate and cover the operational need that go and close the gap in which the operating needs are versus the net patient revenues leave a difference that the government will need to provide in appropriations. So if the legislature in the future provides for the full operational need, then we wouldn't need to have a bailout that we've seen in the past fiscal year 2022 and then now fiscal year 2025.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. So again, in regards to the immediate request and everything, has GMH put together long-term plans to stabilize its finances then and reduce the reoccurrence for emergency funding? And what are those that you put in place?
So management's already started to discuss ways that we can engage public-private partnership. In fact, we just had a huddle earlier today to talk about those things, whether that is a management approach where we privatize certain aspects of management, or we consider evaluating specific services that are offered by the hospital, things like dietary and housekeeping. So if we offload those and they become now contracted services, that might be an opportunity for us to reduce costs and reduce the need for manpower to produce either the requisition of supplies or services, or even to retain those employees. Those are the long-term strategies we're currently contemplating in order to reduce the cost, but all of that is driven at the Board of Trustee level that's entertaining some policy changes.
Okay, so one last question. Let's jump ahead. We get into the new hospital. As Dr. Eusebio said, these problems that we have, these are recurring problems. I seriously doubt it if we'll be able to solve those problems, regardless of if the hospital is built 3 to 5 years from now. We go in the hospital, go to a new hospital. You'll still be needing this alongside the payment of the new hospital, right?
Well, maybe not, because the new hospital gives us an opportunity to rebase our reimbursement rate. So today we receive a reimbursement of $1,400 per day for a large part of our patient population with Medicare and Medicaid. If we are in a new facility, there's an opportunity for us to ask the federal government to reassess what percentage of reimbursement they afford us. If we can increase our net patient revenue, then we can decrease our dependency on the general fund.
And we can't do that in the existing hospital?
Well, we have existing needs, like we have to address our HVAC, our electrical panel. Those things get factored in, as well as how well are we able to provide the needed supplies to execute just basic services. If we cannot demonstrate to the federal government that we can provide just essential services, that begs, I think, a challenge for us to ask for it.
But my question is, as well, is because the price tag on that medical facility is $1 billion. So you add that again versus hospital operations at this point, we'll probably still, we'll be in the same boat. We'll just have a newer facility, but in the same boat in regards to the needs of, again, people not paying, again, because this is the only private public hospital, and so you still have non-payers that will come in. So the same, rather than, you probably won't have the electrical panel problems and all that, but you'll have a very expensive building that we have to pay for right now too. So.
But we will also have an IT infrastructure that will minimize or decrease all this manual processing that we're doing right now.
I believe there's, no, absolutely. I know that in the modernization, it will save us money, but I'm just saying the cost, the upfront cost with that, because obviously the paying customers, you're not going to have enough paying customers to come in, because we're the only public hospital, and now you'll probably have even more because you have a bigger hospital and more people will come to a more modern hospital with the inability to pay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
And if I may say so, Senator, respectfully, that if we don't do the hospital, it's going to cost more. So we might as well take the opportunity to build that new hospital, especially in light of our electrical system. If we have another fire that may be a big one, we're going to lose that hospital.
I understand. Thank you.
So we need the hospital, the new hospital.
I think we all agree we need a new hospital.
Correct.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Senator Lujan. Speaker Blas, you're recognized. Okay. Senator Barnett, you're recognized.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair, and buenas noches, Mariquita, to the people of Guam watching us on our YouTube channel. Please, Adai Talent on your way home. Thank you to the panel. It's good to see you guys this morning. I don't have a problem if you want to come back next month, come back next week. You know what I mean? Talk to us. Yeah, but just in listening to the discussion on the bill and the funding, it kind of seems like the support for the bill is here. It kind of seems like Mr. Byrne is saying that they'll be able to shake the tree and get the $40 million. But I'm just kind of sitting here in my thoughts thinking about the $35 million appropriation that was mentioned in the governor's, or the Bill 44-38, which was vetoed by the governor. And I think that we established very well on the record that that $35 million doesn't actually exist anywhere. So I guess I want to start, if you could reiterate that, Mr. Byrne, because I can't remember what time in the budget session we discussed that. It could have been at midnight. Maybe the people of Guam didn't see it. But what is the status of that $35 million that we appropriated? Just for a little background, or maybe you could provide the background, sir. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to revisit that with gusto. Right? So yes, there is no money in that particular appropriation. And because of the time that's elapsed since then, I was actually able to locate a letter that the director of BBMR and the then director of Revenue and Taxation wrote to the legislature in February 2022 to say exactly that.
Would you like to read any of the passages from the letter, Mr. Byrne, to further support your point?
I can certainly read it out, if you permit me. Just this past week, the Guam Department of Revenue and Taxation received approval for the 2021 Earned Income Tax Credit Implementation Plan for Guam as authorized by the American Rescue Plan Act, which was signed by President Biden on March 11th, 2021. With respect to the funding of the 2021 Earned Income Tax Credit by the federal government, it is now clear that the funds will be funded as an advance to the government for the specific purpose of paying EITC for tax year 2021, as opposed to a reimbursement of amounts paid by the general fund. Because of this, the amounts received for the 2021 Earned Income Tax Credit are not able to be appropriated. Please feel free to contact us at your convenience with any questions or concerns regarding this. And it wasn't me that signed it, it was the Department Director of DRT and the Director of BBMR.
Who was the Director of DRT at that time?
Daphne Shimizu.
Okay, so thank you for that, Mr. Byrne, and to the people of Guam, if you go back and watch the budget session, there was almost a rash of broken arms in here in the session hall from my colleagues trying to pat themselves on the back for appropriating this $35 million in money that just doesn't exist. So while we discuss this $40 million, this is not $40 million on top of $35 million. This $40 million essentially replaces the $35 million that my colleagues were too stubborn to believe doesn't even exist. And so for me, all of this just goes back again to the body's willingness to prioritize a huge corporate tax payday with the BPT rollback. And the impact that that has had to critical government services, not just for the Guam Department of Education, who has said that that bill, even though it was vetoed, is going to be disastrous. I've called the bill a death sentence for the Guam Memorial Hospital, and it's very clear that because, you know, our people are poor. Newsflash, we're going to be doing this every year because we have to accept all comers to the Guam Memorial Hospital. Right, Ms. Lillian?
I got distracted.
It's okay.
Yes, that question.
I was just trying to make the point that our people are poor, and as the island's only public hospital, we cannot turn anyone away. So there's going to be absolutely a certain amount of revenues and expenditures that we're going to have to, essentially, for lack of a better term, subsidize, eat that funding to take care of our people.
Correct. Yes. Right now, we have about 31 of those individuals who are in the hospital who just cannot be discharged. And that amount, starting from 2017, About 50 million is what we have for those patients who have absolutely no financial resource to reimburse the hospital.
And I think anybody who pays attention understands that that's the reason why it's so hard for the Guam Memorial Hospital to get their head above water, because every time you come up for air, it's, you're short another $40–50 million because our people sadly can't afford to pay their hospital bills because they don't have enough money. And it's very clear from the testimony of Dr. Eusebio, although it looks like we're able to shake the tree, look under the couch cushions, get excess revenues from the fiscal year 24 audit, that might be feasible and sustainable today. But according to Dr. Eusebio's testimony, and I mean anybody in the room can do the simple math, we're going to have to come up with another $40 million, maybe even $50 million in the next fiscal year. And that's going to be hard to do because we have essentially taken $80 million off the table with a 1% BPT reduction. So for me, the argument's still valid that although we're able to scrape around $40 million, that we're still going to be looking at critical impacts to public services because of this BPT reduction. And, obviously, I think everybody in here supports the new hospital. I just wish that we were able to do a better job of walking and chewing gum at the same time, because right now, we're chewing gum, but we're not walking. And I think we need to walk the walk for the support of the Guam Memorial Hospital. I also wanted to just comment on this narrative from some of my colleagues that say that, and this is by no means a defense of the administration, but they say things like, oh, it's been 7 years, and why is it only a priority now for the Department of Corrections? Why is it only a priority now for the Guam Memorial Hospital? And I would just say, these are things that we are obligated, we're responsible to do, whether or not the administration follows through with these commitments. As elected representatives of the people, we really have no choice. If it wasn't prioritized yesterday, we absolutely have to prioritize it today. And so I'm not sure there's very much else to say. I did want to ask, though, because I saw a very passionate interview from one of your employees, Mr. Jesse Manabusan, who runs the supply warehouse at the Guam Memorial Hospital, and he had talked about a very passionate pleas that these funds are needed, that, we're out of supplies at the Guam Memorial Hospital. I know that you have said here that about $3 million will go towards the purchasing of supplies, but could you just, maybe for the record, state the types of supplies and how relevant they are to providing critical patient care?
Absolutely, and Dr. Eusebio can also add, and even nursing, that, the basic supplies that really we should have all the time, like IV tubings, heparin locks, gauze pads that we run out, breathing circuits for the, in the operating room. Those are just basic supplies. Linens is also, is a struggle, is a challenge. Again, as a hospital, we really should keep those supplies all the time. But, when we run out and we try and, do some kind of a makeshift to make sure that we can still do those treatments and those services and procedures. That's what we do. I can give you a long list if you need to, if you want to, or Christine and Dr. Eusebio can add, and even Bell, because these individuals are right at the clinical, trenches, and they're the ones who really work with the patients directly.
I would, Nurse Bell, if you could just maybe, or even Doc, anybody who wants to
I can give you an example. I have a patient that I was scheduled to do an operation yesterday, and the OR staff told me, Doc, we only have one more of this item. We've asked if the other hospitals had it. We even called Saipan, and nobody has it anymore. Nobody wants to give us any more. You only have one left. And so this is the example of what we go through daily, quite honestly. And whether it is patient gowns, IV tubing, simple, basic medicines that we identify as stock items. Stock items, you're supposed to have that. And if you come to the operating room and you see the list of stock items that are NIS, not in stock, it's a whole bulletin board. You'll be shocked to see. And this is what we deal with every time. That's why for me, being here is frustrating. It's frustrating. Senator Lujan asked for $40 million. It'll be gone because we're just trying to survive. What we want to do is we want to provide, I say, the best care. Why should we settle for second best? We want to provide the best care. Give us the means to do that and we'll do it.
Thank you, Doc. Ma'am?
Good evening, Senators. So I'm in charge of respiratory, and people ask me what keeps me up all night. When I receive a text or the manager will tell me, we don't have this breathing supply, or we only have one. So we gotta choose which one of these patients will need this breathing supplies. And so we don't have to choose. We have to have these certain supplies. I deal a lot with the hearts, cardiology. When we have not done procedures for the heart in so many years, but now we offer it. And when we're doing this, and the doctor will ask me, do we have this? And I said, Doc, we only have this for now. And we make do of what we have, and that's very hard. It's like choosing which patient do we take care now, but in reality, we have to take care of everybody. So there was also another time that materials management told me we are on credit hold for this vendor that will produce a certain supply. So what did I say? Let me know. If I have to beg, we will beg so that they can give us these certain supplies. But we don't have to do that. I mean, these are all for the patients. And again, we don't have to choose which patients we will give these certain supplies. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And, I apologize for the very difficult choices that you have to make because of some of the bad choices that we make in this session hall. Doc, you talked about barely getting by, right? So this $40 million is not going to give us a Cadillac healthcare system. This is not going to give us stocks of supplies like in the COVID days where you had your warehouses of masks and all these things. This is just going to take us from being extremely short to just barely getting by. And it's a continuation of the status quo, which makes me scratch my head because half of my colleagues in here ran on improving the status quo, not on being hell-bent on keeping it in place. And so we hear these stories about the hospital, the impact to critical care, but the priority again was to make money for the biggest of the big corporations and leave GMH to make do with what they have, which I absolutely don't agree with. I think that investing in our people's health care should be the #1 priority. And I think we also need to be honest with ourselves and take the politics out of it, which again makes me scratch my head because we had a really good bill in here about a public-private partnership that, I think all my colleagues stood up and spoke in support of it, but when it came time for a show of hands, a lot of hands didn't go up. But I think that's the solution in moving forward. I think if we're being honest, we can't really expect the leadership team to make tough choices about non-essential, essential employees. I know that you guys have a new administrator coming on. I know that there are efforts underway with the public-private partnership, whether it comes from this legislature or from the administration. I think a lot of those difficult choices will have to be made so that we get to a sustainable place. And for me, not a place of barely getting by. Our people don't deserve barely getting by anymore. I think we have to recalibrate our priorities in this chamber. And if we're hearing from the folks who run the hospital that, yeah, it's $40 million today, but it could be $50 million next fiscal year. It could be $60 million the fiscal year after that. And it's going to be hard to come by these funds if the priority of the body was to take care of not the small businesses, the biggest of the biggest corporations making tens of hundreds of $millions.
Point of order.
While we hear.
Point of order. Your point of order.
What does that got to do with what we're dealing with today?
I'm speaking on the hospital, sir. This micromanaging of the discussion, I think, is an insult to the people of Guam.
It's not a micromanagement of the discussion.
It is, Mr. Speaker, with all due respect.
There are certain rules that this body follows.
Yeah, you're really outside the scope. We give a lot of latitude here, Senator, but we understand your narrative, but the bill is for $40 million. That the governor sent down.
And everything that I'm discussing relates to why we have to discuss this bill
proceed on the bill
today. So again, I don't understand the censorship, the micromanagement, the unwillingness to allow members of this body, duly elected representatives,
point of order,
who are the voice of the people of Guam,
point of order, Mr.
should
Speaker.
be able to discuss
There's a point of
freely
order on the floor.
These
Senator,
issues.
do you have respect for the point of order? Thank you. Yes, sir.
There are standing rules that this body needs to follow. And if the gentleman would like to continue, I suggest that he go through his standing rules and see how confined the debate should be.
Duly noted, Speaker. Please continue, Senator.
Thank you. I feel if anybody watching, I'm talking about apples to apples. I think it's very relevant. We're talking about GMH's funding issues. We're talking about the challenges in funding GMH. And we're talking about the cause and effect of actions of this body, which I believe is absolutely relevant. So like I said, it looks like we can find the money today. I'm not confident that we'll be able to find it in the next fiscal year because of some of the priorities of the members of this body, which apparently include limiting what duly elected representatives of the people have to say in this session hall. Sidus Masi, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. We'll send you an additional copy of the standing rules. Senator Sean Guntata, you're recognized.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, everyone, for being here today. Let me start with Mr. Byrne. Again, for the record, where is the money outlined by the governor of Guam in this special session coming from? To be clear, a $40 million appropriation from the general fund in FY 2025. And if so, what is the specific general fund source? BPT, income taxes, Section 30, excess FY 2025 general fund collections, or what FY 2025 appropriations will be decreased or otherwise be adjusted in order to support this $40 million appropriation?
Senator, as I answered previously, the general fund is a mixture of results. It includes revenues, it includes expenses. And they get, when you close off the books and arrive at a general fund balance, it's an amalgamation of all those elements.
Mr. Burns, so I'll just ask again. Are you saying it's going to be 20 from BPT, 10 from this? I mean, you've all called us down here. Can you please tell us specifically where is $40 million going to come from?
Senator, you can ask that question again, and my answer will be the same. It's
amalgamation of all these places.
Absolutely, that's accounting.
But how do you explain that to the people of Guam, Mr. Byrne? I mean, we're asking specifically, you're asking us to give you money. We're just asking so we know where it's coming from.
In a business, when you pay the rent comes from revenues, and there are other expenses that get set against those revenues in order to arrive at your retained earnings. It's exactly the same here. So
I guess our business is not doing very well if you can't possibly tell us where this might come from. But I'll go ahead and move on because I think I'm not going to get a great answer to it. But how do you plan to oversee the proper use of this money? My understanding is that the fiscal team of the governor of Guam, that includes you, are going to watch this expenditure for the balance of this month. Also, if you can, what reporting requirements should be considered, ensuring that any funds that are appropriated through this particular bill are accounted for through a report submitted to this body and to the Office of Public Accountability?
It's certainly, if you wish to have a report, that's certainly more than a reasonable request and can be made available to you. If you would like to, perhaps suggest an amendment that produces a formatted report, we'll be certainly happy to do it. The fiscal team that you were talking about, right? We're the professionals that are managing this, and I don't know why you're laughing.
I'm chuckling because we're here, and I asked you a specific question about, okay, I asked where would it come from, the general fund, and then you said you're professionals, and you said, well, basically it's an amalgamation. Mr. Byrne, we're all accountable too, and I know you can tell me if it's 10 from here, 20 from here. Even if you said 10 and 20 from here, there's that whole report's going to say it came from 20 from here, 10 from here. That's what I'm saying. And I chuckle because you just told me that you really can't give a great answer. And then you used an example from a business. Not a great one. Again, that's what I'm asking. So what's the plan?
I think it was a most appropriate example.
Okay, that's fine, but what's the plan to manage this money?
Well, that is one of the reasons why, in answer to Senator Borja, we're suggesting that it's managed by the administration so that we are able to report to you.
But they're also a semi-autonomous agency that has procurement authorities as well that can do this job, right?
Yes, that's correct. And they're able to do their procurement, and they no doubt will.
So with that said, with respect to the procurement of goods and services addressing the needs that are enumerated in this particular bill, so what information is available at this point on whether the governor of Guam intends to exercise emergency procurement, and is or will there be a state of emergency declaration and corresponding executive order issued to this particular effect?
Well, I think the governor approach to this was to send a bill down here. But I don't know I actually do not know what happened to that bill. But that was her answer.
Okay, no, that's fair, because I think that, like previous governors before her, she could have issued an executive order declaring that an emergency exists. And then she could have said, here's the problem, sent it with a letter to us. We could have addressed a bill to address that particular part of the executive order and then move on. GMH, can I ask you, how confident are you guys that you can spend the monies that are outlined in the governor's bill by September 30, 2025?
Thank you for that question, Senator. If we have, access into that 40 million, we can pay those vendors as quickly as possible because we have the invoices ready, and we can then make sure that we keep track of those funds immediately.
No, and I get that. So the question is that, are you confident you can spend all of it, all 40 million, by September 30, 2025?
Well, the 26 million for the vendors, definitely. But
and you're missing one big one, which is the Guam Power Authority. You owe them
that's
about $1
definitely
million
going to have to
change.
be paid.
But you didn't mention it tonight. Why not? Why not Guam Power Authority?
They are on the list of vendors that need to be paid because it's utilities.
I understand that, but I think today you were on the record and you said all these other vendors. What about GPA? Why did you not share that with us tonight? Are they on your list?
They're on your list. Yes, they're part of our accounts payable. The 26 million we discussed earlier, they are on that list.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. Now, on August 21st, 2025, the governor of Guam told you to show them, quote, please provide me with the appropriate legal citation that authorizes the executive to provide the hospital with the ability to procure without the constraints of standard procurement, noting I am unaware of any statutory authority to waive regulations other than the declaration of a public health emergency, the authority used to address the extraordinary situation caused by the pandemic. Is this special session the result of that August 21st letter to you all at GMHA after you had asked for an emergency declaration nearly 3 weeks later?
It's possible that it is related to it, but because we're just trying to do our jobs to make sure we get the funding. And we don't know where the funding sources are, and so that's why we're asking.
No, but that's why I'm making this mention, Lillian, right? You said it was an emergency. What baffles me as a policymaker is when you say you have an emergency, and the executive or the people that you preceded did the same thing with a response, which was, you said it was an emergency, an executive order came that an emergency exists, right? And then below it would be, here's the problem that if we face. And then what that goes down here, that comes to have us create a bill that would in fact help. I mean, I'm not gonna go down all the other stuff on the budget, because that's not what this is about. An emergency happened. One of my colleagues left here during budget session to tour the facility with the acting governor of Guam. Then you asked, emergency exists, can you please go? And they said, well, I don't know. That's what I'm asking, is this a result of that? Because quite honestly, I'm here to help too, and I agree that we got to do something. Is this that result?
It's very possible, because we have been, looking for those kinds of sources and help. So
Yeah.
we don't have
oh,
that.
no, and I think so, and that's what I'm saying. I'm with you. I would wish that the governor of Guam is watching today, can type out, dear legislature, we have an emergency, and based on that authority, here is what I'd like you to do. I have an emergency procurement. You can immediately get that done. 250,000 can go like that. But right now, we're not even going there. That's not going to happen even if we pass this. You don't get that chance because there's no emergency that exists. It's not on this document. Am I wrong? Am I wrong that this bill doesn't talk about a single, the word emergency doesn't exist. So couldn't that help? Just saying. Could it help?
The 40 million would help. Absolutely.
I get that, but yeah,
exactly,
Lillian. That's my point,
Okay.
That and then you can't pay all those things. You can't make all those upgrades. You have to bid it still. And if you're stuck waiting for a procurement, that's why I said, can you spend it in less than 20 days? It's not possible. You can pay your vendors, but those upgrades that you mentioned, that you said here in the budget session, that isn't going to happen. It is not possible. It's just not possible without an emergency declaration from the governor of Guam. That's why I'm here to work too. Everybody was down here. They thought it was an emergency. But today, is this an emergency or not? Is what I'm trying to say.
It's an emergency, Senator.
Okay, now that's what I'm hoping that we might have to maybe amend. But then the governor needs to right now listen and send it to us so we can attach it to the bottom of this.
Okay.
Why not?
You want?
Yeah, Lillian, absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, I think all of us, we recognize that. But you can't say, I'm going to go ahead and spend this kind of money, and the speed of which you need to do it, you're not going to be able to do it without it. In fairness, you're not. I know your legal counsel's not here, but we all know. You've been around, you know this is a big deal. If you want to spend it, you need it now, well, this is not the vehicle. In my opinion, you need an executive order that throws us back in here. It goes back to the Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Mr. Chair, and says this is the emergency. We make the amendment on the language of that bill that says according to that emergency. And then it gets thrown, we vote on it, we're out of here in a couple hours, and you get it, you can go do the job that you need to right now. I get the urgency from all of us, but this is not urgency. I'm sorry. He's going to have to manage it at some point. He will. I mean, from the amalgamation of sources. But it's going to have to be managed, but it cannot move. We're going to be back here, or just might as well wait till the end of the fiscal year, and we'll be game on again.
If I may, Senator, you're right, because some of the items, and given the amount that we're talking about, we will need to go through procurement. And so absolutely, we cannot complete the procurement process by 9:30. That's just in so many days.
This is probably nervous laughter on my point, because it is absolutely that. You need the help. This is not it. The money helps, but you can't procure it fast enough. And even though we got our bill coming, it gives you small purchase, all this other good stuff that you guys had asked for. But this is not the vehicle to get your stuff taken care of in a timely fashion. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time. Thank you again, you guys, for being with us tonight.
Senator Gumitata. Speaker Blas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To the panel, thank you very much for being here. Just a couple questions, and I purposely wanted to be last so that I can continue to digest what was being said. Ms. Posadas, and you had mentioned this, and this was mentioned also by Yuka, and not just in this presentation, but previous presentations. Has there been funding that you had been promised or that you had been appropriated but you had never received?
The 35 million was what we were, we understood was available, and that's what we added as an amendment into the fiscal year 26 budget that this legislature approved. That was one, but it's not so much that it was promised, but we identified that was a possible funding source, only to find out and to realize that that's not available.
Okay, I'm referring specifically to specific appropriations that were made to you but you had never received.
There was a $10 million appropriation that we understood back. Go ahead.
There was a $10 million appropriation. I can't remember exactly what year. It was either 2019, 2020, into the hospital capital improvement fund that we never received.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of right away. The pharmaceutical fund, what was appropriated, we received. There were a couple of years that the farm fund did not perform as well because of the BPT, so we didn't receive a couple $1 million from that.
Okay.
There was also that $10 million that former Senator James Moylan, I guess, discovered or uncovered was a lapsed funds from, was it DOC or from some agency, but we were told that money doesn't exist. Okay. So we never got that 10 million.
And then the 10 million that was taken away from you from ARP.
That 10 million that we lost.
And that's $30 million, right? That you were told you were going to be able to get. I'm not even talking about the 35 mil, but told that you were supposed to get, but you never got. Right? Okay. Now this bill is very specific with $40 million. Where did this figure come from?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question, Senator.
The bill
or
is
Speaker?
specific, $40 million.
Yes.
Where did that figure come from?
I do not have the knowledge of where it came from, other than what is said in the bill that is from the general fund.
Mr. Byrne, where did we come up with $40 million?
Sir, are you asking how the estimate was arrived at?
No, I'm asking how you came up with this bill. Is very specific. It says the sum of $40 million.
Yeah, that's an estimate of, well...
It's not an estimate, because an estimate is a sum of up to $40 million.
No, I think it's an estimate. But the transmittal letter says to address Guam Memorial Hospital's urgent needs.
Okay, but where did $40 million come from?
So,
where did that number come from?
That is the governor's assessment of the urgent needs. We've already heard there's 30 million, or I'm not sure whether it's 26 or 30, but I would like to firm up on that, in payables. So that obviously needs to be liquidated. And there's another 10 million. And I can only assume that if she thought that the financials could bear more, she would have asked for more. But some of your colleagues are asking, why is it so much?
I'm not. I'm asking you, how do you get to it?
It's an assessment
so remember
of
what my
urgent
colleagues
needs.
asked. I'm asking, how do we get to $40 million? I'm just curious.
It could be 60 million, but I think that would have exceeded, I think all your colleagues were asking, where is this money coming from? It's an assessment of the balance between the need and the availability.
Okay, let's talk about the availability. Because as many times as you were asked the question and as many times as you answered the question a certain way, I'm going to ask it in a different form. Assuming that Bill 44-38 was passed into law, assuming that it was overridden, would this bill have existed? This bill before us?
That's a lot of hypotheticals.
I know, it's an assumption. But I'm asking, as if Bill 44-38 was passed into law or was overridden and it was in law, would this bill been introduced?
Well, no, because there would have been a funding source from the BPT, which it would have been a different bill.
So that's where this money is coming from. That's where this money is coming from then.
Well, not unless you allow it.
So it is. So the answer to had Bill 44-38 passed or been signed in, or overridden into law, this bill would not have existed.
It would have been. The sum of money would have been there. It wouldn't have changed the sum of money.
How?
It would have. The wording would have been different.
Because then we would be appropriating from funding that didn't exist, and you would knew that, Mr. Byrne.
No, I wouldn't. It would be from funding that was anticipated in BPT revenues.
So the answer is no. This bill would not have existed at 44.
Not in this form.
Oh, okay. It's kind of interesting as to where that's going to be coming from. Okay. Over the last 3 weeks, has the government of Guam been availed of new funding, new monies, as a result of, let's say, refinancing or?
Well, I don't know that I would characterize it as new monies. The BPT refunding resulted in a reduction in debt service for the first 2 years of the refunded period.
By what amount?
It's 19 million in the first year and 17 million in the second year.
So about $36 million.
Yes.
Okay. Why didn't you say that earlier? The question was asked very specifically, and I guess I just had to make it more succinctly.
But it's not no, I don't think it was. It's not a revenue. It's a reduction in expenditure.
Understood, but there's still monies that is now available, right?
Is
that money that is anticipated for this funding source?
No.
It's not.
No. It has to be used for Simon Sanchez.
It has to be what?
Used to fund Simon Sanchez.
We already funded Simon Sanchez in 44-38.
Well, I think there's a difference of opinion on that. That was done by an anticipated transfer, which the governor doesn't think can happen.
Mr. Guerrero, in 44-38, was Simon Sanchez funded with a viable source?
To answer your question, Senator, yes, it was. We also used the same funding source to I think, fund other things. So in the terms to your definition of viable, we've been using this type of method for the last couple of years. It seems to be viable because it does materialize. And that I guess it's just, it's good fortune for the government that we have been actually surplusing every year since then.
Okay. Ms. Posadas, were you told all of this prior to coming down here about where this money was going to come from?
No, Speaker.
Now
I do
that
not
you
have
fi-
that information.
Now that you find out where this money is coming from, how confident are you in being able to get it?
I'm comfortable and I'm confident.
You're confident. You're confident that you know that it's going to come from a funding source that had already been tapped on a different bill. So what you're doing here is you're bringing to this body basically what is undermined and underhanded, okay? Because the assumption is that the bill is not going to pass. It's not going to be overridden, so therefore the funding is there. The assertion or already the admittance by Mr. Byrne is that had that bill, or when that bill passes, or had that bill been passed already, this funding source would not have existed.
Well, Senator, you asked me to answer a hypothetical question, and I answered in the affirmative.
Well, everything is hypothetical right now. Okay? Right? Everything's hypothetical right now. Okay?
Well,
the thing is,
eventually we have to come to reality.
We're talking about, yes, a hospital that's in need and stuff.
Yes, and I of all people know very well the needs of the hospital.
Okay. Question, Ms. Posadas. You said you were anticipating the $35 million. Okay, let's go back to the $35 million. Were you ever informed up until the last 3 weeks ago that that money didn't exist?
Yes, when we had the meeting with the governor after I had submitted that request for emergency assistance.
Okay, so that was about a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
We met with the governor on the August 22nd. And so that's the day when we were informed that
Just
money
like
doesn't exist.
the day you were told that the $10 million in ARP no longer exists for you, it happened after the fact. Am I right? Thank you. Mr. Chair. Mr. King, and son, I'm sorry, okay, because you brought this up with regards to the rebasing. And you said that, there's a process that you're going through that you need to go through, and I get it, system in place so that you can prove that, the rebasing, will work. When was the last time that you had asked for consideration or you were asked to submit any information, data necessary for a request for rebasing?
I can only speak from when my employment started 5 months ago. So within that period of time, it was not asked. They probably have had history from prior years.
And earlier we had testimony and we had conversation about, I guess, the administration going to DC and asking for certain things with regard to the hospital, and nothing with regard to a discussion on rebasing.
We are working with our consultant to then help us with that process, the rebasing.
Yeah, but there was no discussion as early as 2 weeks ago when you had the opportunity in front of the intergovernmental agency with the Department of Interior, with the White House, to be able to ask for it. So when we talk about priorities, okay, what I'm getting at is there was an opportunity. And we didn't take that opportunity. That opportunity wasn't taken. Because you have the ability right now to be able to make a case for it, if a case was to be made. But, because everything is hypothetical and theoretical, it didn't happen.
If I may, Speaker?
Sure.
We've also been in discussion with Congressman Moylan on some of those issues, rebasing the critical access hospital designation, and he's also working with this team. And there is a bill, HR 90-128, to establish a territorial safety network designation equivalent to the critical access hospital designation, but specific to the island Guam and the other territories. That will give us that designation will give us then a higher reimbursement. So there's been that discussion.
Yeah, but I'm getting to now a discussion that we had as an opportunity to those decision makers. There was a recent photograph in the newspaper of, you know, our members of our executive branch in front of them. That should have been as a priority. I'm going to finish up all of my minute and 18 seconds. Okay. So, without a state of emergency, and you already asked the question that you would prefer that this funding go directly to you as opposed to DOA. How are we going to, if this bill were to pass as is, and there's no state of emergency, how are we going to pay this, get this in time for, get the monies or make the procurement in time for things to get fixed?
The cover letter does state there's that urgency that we need to have this infusion of cash.
Yeah, but if the money's going to him, he doesn't have the power for a state of emergency because the governor said she has no ability to be able to help you guys from outside of the Guam Memorial Hospital.
Mr. Speaker, the governor sent down a bill with emergency powers.
That was fraught with a medical complex.
Well,
okay, let's be honest, Mr. Byrne.
Okay,
that
you have the opportunity, but you had the opportunity
and we'll
to take those
we'll
parts
have
out.
that with a public hearing on Friday. I can't discuss this any
All right,
further because by the rules.
But I do want to make it on record that there was an attempt that you didn't approve, but there was an attempt.
But there's nothing in that, even in that bill, that basically says DOA was going to handle all your procurement. Okay? There's nothing in that bill.
We're not going to handle the procurement.
Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, we have finished round one. We will come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. For round two and for amendments. Plan to stay until we rise from the committee of the whole. We are in recess.